Let me show you 3 practical ways to better prepare your teenager for today's realities. And why exactly am I talking about this? An increasing body of research is beginning to show, without any doubt, that academic ability alone is not sufficient to make your young person prepared for the realities of today. Your teenager would also need things like emotional intelligence, decision making skills, resilience, communication skills, financial awareness, and real world problem solving skills. All of these are becoming essentials. Now, there was a study by the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, CIPD, that shows that only 1 in 4 employers thought that all the young people that they studied were prepared, for the world of employment. In fact, over 50% of them thought that most of those young people were generally unprepared and they wouldn't employ them in their own businesses. And in case you're thinking, well, I'm not preparing my young person to be employed, you must also understand that whatever makes a young person unsuitable for employment would most likely make it difficult for them to successfully be self-employed or go on to create something. So these are specific skills, like I said, things like emotional intelligence. You need that to run your own personal business. So it's not, we're not just talking about preparing your young person to be employable. We're also talking about preparing them for the realities of life. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. So stick around. And at the end of this video, you're going to get 3 practical, evidence-based, and effective tools you could use to help your young person to stand out. But before we proceed into the videos, I'm going to encourage you to please support us by liking and sharing our videos so it gets to other people. Also, if you like what you hear, why not subscribe and follow us so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. So, with the marketing out of the way, let's talk about why we're here. Point number 1. There's this simple formula that if you do not remember anything that I tell you today, I'd like you to keep at the back of your head and on the palm of your hands. Winready is equal to street smart plus school smart. Now, many of us are aware of the importance of school, and we encourage our young people to go to school. We register them, pay very high fees to make sure they go to school. Most schools are not equipped to prepare young people for what they need. That's why you hear people talking online about things like school is scam. And so for you to get that balance that would better prepare them for the realities that the world presents, you need to balance what they learn in school with the realities out there on the streets. So number 1, you need to stop treating school as the only measure of intelligence. A lot of parents believe in their heads, and it finds a way of coming out in how they address and how they attend to their young people, that good grades is equal to intelligence or smart, and bad grades is equal to failure. That's not just categorically wrong. It creates this impression and kills your young person's confidence, because it's possible for your young person to be very bad in algebra or whatever mathematics they are being taught today, but be very good in things like leadership, problem solving, selling, telling stories. And you don't need to look too far to see loads of people who have made tons of wealth with things like storytelling, all of these things that you don't necessarily learn them in school. So you need to stop this behavior of, finding a way of letting your young person believe that the true measure of intelligence is their school grade. So if they get F, it means they are nothing. That is not correct, and that's not true. And what you need to do practically is you need to start learning to praise effort, not just grades. You need to praise creativity. You need to acknowledge when they do something that shows creativity. Put the same level of acknowledgement and recognition and support into those results as you would in good grades. Every now and then you can have a chat with them about successful people who, succeeded from different areas of life or doing different things, as opposed to only talking to them about people who are graduates with flashy degrees. You should also help them identify strength outside school. When you go to watch football, tell them about successful people who They do not need a degree to to succeed. If they do something that is unrelated to academics, but it's good and you think would take them somewhere, you acknowledge it, you support it, and you help it grow. This single line, if you don't remember anything I've said so far, would help you. School helps you qualify for opportunities. But street smarts, well, that would help you recognize opportunities, navigate the challenges that you face as you go through these opportunities, and oftentimes you maximize the opportunities that life presents to you. I mean, the human nature is so complex that it would be mad for you to assume that by sitting in some class and learning some calculus, you would be fit to interact with people as you step into the real world. Number two, you need to intentionally expose them to street smart opportunities. Now, what do I mean exactly? I've been using this word street smart. What exactly do I mean by street smart? Street smart basically means that knowledge, that skill, that quality that you only pick by interacting with people out there on the streets. Not the kind of things you learn by, spending time on digital streets where most things are fake. People present, fancy lifestyles that are far from reality. Getting stuck in the everyday banter and learning things like resilience, learning things like communicating, dealing with human nature, failing and picking yourself back up and going there and giving it another go. That's what you learn from the street. And that's what we mean by street smart. And that's the simple reason why you see a lot of people without any form of qualification or degree go on to succeed big, because they've been out there on the street and they've been taught in the school of hard knock on how to deal with the real challenges of life. So you can spend all the time you want behind your computer, in your classroom, learning all the algebra you can. Once you hit the streets, the reality that awaits you out there, you might find shocking if you're not ready. So what you need to do is to encourage your young person to get out there, get stuck in the nuts and bolts of how life truly works. Because we have loads of teenagers who have all the algebra knowledge that they need, but zero knowledge of how ATMs work, how credit cards work, how manipulation works, how people scam people, how to negotiate, how to communicate professionally, how social media algorithms work, how everything that is presented to them online might be fake. And one practical way you can do this is to get them involved in your everyday decisions, everyday activities, everyday things that you do. For instance, if you go shopping, have those price banters with them, discuss with them, help them, allow them to plan budgets with you. As you deal with the realities of life, get them involved in those realities. Explain things like taxes to them, how bills work, how borrowing work, how investments work. And as soon as you are able to, give them opportunities to start trying. They can start selling things on eBay. They can start selling things on Amazon. They can come up with ideas, help them develop the ideas. Let them try to go out there and try to implement the ideas. And if they succeed, they succeed. If they fail, they fail. And then the young person begins to learn something from that space. And try not to always be a lecturer who's always telling them what to do, how to. Let them go, have a go, and see what it takes to succeed. And number three, this is very important. You need to help your young person learn the courage to try and the strength to recover. Courage to try and strength to recover. Now, as someone who has studied to the highest level of education, if there's one thing I think that education has done to me, is my risk appetite reduced drastically with my level of education. And because I overanalyze everything, an idea lands, and the next thing I want to do is to analyze, to do all the calculations. And before you know what's happening, I get lost on that long road of analysis. I think they call it analysis paralysis. Now, for a layman who knows not much about how things work, they do not bother so much. And that naivety, that so-called ignorance, allows them to take that blind leap into that world. And oftentimes, they learn in the process, they fail forward, and then they end up succeeding. Now, that's the risk of allowing your child to focus just on the educational development and not the street smart, because it's in the street that your young person begins to learn that if something fails, there are lessons to learn from it, and there are ways you could do them better to get the best results in the future. That's the kind of thing you learn from the street. And what you want to do is to create an environment that encourages your young person to take that bold action and even recover if it doesn't work as expected and go again the next time. Now, practical ways you can do this. One, you could allow your young person to try difficult things, even when you know these things are going to fail. Risk it. Allow them to take the leap, and they would learn in the process that some things would fail, but yet some other things would succeed. You must also resist the attempt to leap in and provide the lessons and the lectures. You must allow them to reflect on the process, reflect on the outcomes, learn their lessons so that they can get better next time to do it. Something else that they would find helpful is allowing your vulnerabilities, your mistakes, your failures, the times you've tried and things did not work, discussing that freely with them. What that does to them is allows them to see that failing sometimes is normal. Even their hero or their heroine parents can also try something and fail and learn lessons and try again. Be honest about your practical experience with life. Finally, you also need to teach them to ask the right questions. Now, questions or the right questions are some of your strongest tools in life to learn. So you go through something, it doesn't come out as expected. Rather than asking, why am I a failure? They should be asking, what can I learn from this process? So practically help them to ask the right questions in the face of the realities of life. And every time they go through that process, they would always come back or come out better than they went in. So hopefully you found these 3 steps very helpful. Number 1, stop treating school as the only measure of intelligence. Number 2, intentionally expose your young person to street smart opportunities. Number 3, help your young person build the courage to try and the strength to recover. So, again, if you found this helpful, do not forget to follow and to subscribe, and also to encourage what we do. I would ask that you like and share so it gets to other people. I help young people, I help parents and their young people go through the challenges of life and better prepare them for the future that is ahead. Things like career development, how to prepare themselves for admissions and opportunities and scholarships and things like that. If your young person needs structured support, please visit our website to see what we offer and feel free to get in touch. You can also leave a comment here to let me know the situation you're dealing with, and I'll be more than happy to offer bespoke advice. So if you check out our website, there are free resources. For instance, you can take your young person can take a personality test and get ideas of the kind of career that suits them and their strengths, their weaknesses, and take all of those free resources that you would find on our website. Feel free again, like I said, to get in touch, and I'll be more than happy to help. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.